Welcome to the Derek Smith Spiel. Today's episode, we are going to be going over UFC 329, Return of the Mac. But before we get into that, let's make a deal. If you're listening to this episode and you like what you hear, go ahead and follow and hit the bell so you get notifications for all of my podcasts that come out weekly on Wednesdays at 10 a.m. If you're on YouTube and you like what you're hearing, go ahead and like and subscribe to the channel and hit the bell there so you can get notified again for the podcasts that come out every Wednesday at 10 a.m. But getting right into this, UFC 329, Return of the Mac, Max Holloway against Conor McGregor, number 2. Starting off with the undercard performances, I won't go over every fight, just the most notable ones, people you should keep an eye out for. Ryan Gondra, he won by first round knockout over Zach Reese. He is now 2-0 in the UFC with 2 TKOs. Keep an eye out for Ryan Gondra. He is going to climb up the middleweight rankings. Another person on the climb, Fahid Basharat, won by unanimous decision against John Garza. He is the only undefeated bantamweight fighter left. The only one with the 0 in the loss column. How he has gone unnoticed up to this point baffles me. He won't be unnoticed for much longer. Look out for Fahid Basharat. The name that every announcer stumbles over or chuckles over, Damian Pinas, Pinas. Damian Pinas gets a one-punch KO over Cesar Almeida and is now 2-0 in the UFC with 2 knockouts. Another one, 2 undefeated in the UFC with 2 finishes in the first round. There is no way that these fighters, although they haven't made their main card appearance yet, keep posted for Ryan Gondra, Fahid Basharat, and Damian Pinas. And lastly, this guy, he's starting to pick up momentum. Last one I'm going to mention. He really isn't that under the radar anymore, especially people who are fans of Paddy Pimblett probably already know the name Luke Riley, who won with a first-round TKO over Kai Kamala III. He improves to 14-0, and he is going to be England's next big fighter. England has had a revolution of sort in the MMA world, starting with Michael Bisping, and there's been a rise of popularity. It is like a cult fan base. Michael Bisping, Tom Aspinall, Paddy Pimblett, Luke Riley is the next name on that list. A ton of fun to watch. He is going to make his way up to the main cards, and he is going to be a fan favorite. Now, lastly, I lied. Lastly, I will mention Gable Steveson. He won by TKO in his UFC debut. That's a tough one. It's very impressive, a great performance. But that is a classic example of treatment that he did what he was supposed to. He was put against an opponent who has been struggling in the UFC, and it was supposed to be a match that he was going to win. The UFC loves taking these young prospects and putting them in fights where they are supposed to win and just slowly grooming them to hope that they develop and turn into stars. That's what happened with Gable Steveson. And in that heavyweight division, he could climb up very quick. A lot of holes in there, a lot of questions. Gable Stevenson's on the rise for sure, and he's going to be a problem. We saw how quickly Josh Hokett just raced his way up the rankings. Now Hokett, and maybe a match away from a title shot. It's ridiculous. Gable Steveson could have a crazy run. It's hard to say. It was not the cleanest match, but a first round TKO is a first round TKO, and he did what he was supposed to do. So props to Gable Steveson. If you're a fan of folk style wrestling in America, Gable Steveson is your guy to root for. Gable Steveson and Bo Nickel, both phenomenal wrestlers at the NCAA level, national champions, each 3-time national champions, I believe, and great wrestling. Gable Steveson didn't seem like he relied on it. He was willing to swing. That's something you see with a lot of these wrestlers in the UFC. They come in and they want to prove that they can throw down with the best of the best, which makes sense, but at the same time, your top priority should be winning and reducing damage done to yourself. And there is no better way to win and reduce damage than to control someone in top position. It is scary, and I'm a little bit hesitant to jump behind it when you see these world or national class, even world class wrestlers. Gable Stevenson's a gold medalist. You see these world class wrestlers start trying to strike, and yes, you want to see development, but you've got to stick to your bread and butter. You have to. We'll see what happens with Gable Stevenson once again in the heavyweight division with plenty of question marks. Moving on to the main card, the first bout was Robert Whittaker's debut at light heavyweight, and he looked amazing. He looked fast, quick, strong. He ended up defeating Nikita Krylov by TKO in round 3. It was amazing striking. If you can find the highlight of the right cross, the counter right cross that Robert Whittaker threw, that in the moment you thought it broke Krylov's jaw, the way he reacted, his head snapped to his shoulder. It was a gruesome and violent strike executed perfectly. Robert Whittaker looks completely comfortable at light heavyweight. It was a great debut match for him, and moving forward, he could very easily keep stacking wins up at light heavyweight and make another run for a title shot. Robert Whittaker used to be a middleweight, is a veteran, crafty veteran, phenomenal fighter, great analysis too. He does great analysis with the UFC. Now working his way up to light heavyweight, it will be very exciting to see where he goes in the division. As far as future matchups, let me see what I brewed up here. I'd like to see him fight against number 6 ranked Jamal Hill. Jamal Hill is on a 3-fight loss streak in the light heavyweight division, and he's on his way, currently ranked number 6. He's lost 3 fights in a row. Hill is at the point where he has to win, or he is going to plummet down the rankings. Meanwhile, Whittaker just got a win against a ranked opponent. He's in the position where if he wins 1 or 2 more, he's got a title shot opportunity. This would be the perfect propeller for Robert Whittaker and a phenomenal matchup against 2 very hard-hitting strikers. Look for the UFC to set up Robert Whittaker against Jamal Hill. And on the other side, for Nikita Krylov, he's got to recover, and he has got to fight like his career depends on it, his next match. He was the 12 seed heading into the fight, will undoubtedly be jumped by Robert Whittaker because of the head-to-head loss. He's a loss away from slipping out of the top 15 rank in the light heavyweight division. His next fight needs to be an impressive one. He's got to fight like his career depends on it. After the light heavyweight bout, King Green won by TKO in round 1 against Terrence T-Rex McKinney. And this one was, frankly, awful. I've seen mixed reviews on it. The way I saw the fight was horrible. It was a horrific early stoppage. Terrence McKinney should be rallying even harder than Alex Pereira is for the shots to the back of the head. It was a terrible stoppage. McKinney won 4 minutes and 50 seconds of that 5-minute fight. He was outstriking King Green. He was dominating on the ground. He went for submissions back to back, tying everything together. Then in the last 30 seconds, King Green got out on bottom. He landed a teep leg kick to the body. He landed one body shot. Terrence went down, and there were 10 seconds left. Terrence was defending himself, and King Green was wailing on him. As the round ended, the ref stopped in and called off the fight. It was terrible. I've seen both sides of it. I've seen people who say you've got to defend yourself. From my perspective, it looked like Terrence McKinney was defending himself. And with that short time left, it makes no sense, especially when you see what happens future fights on this card. It's another thing so frustrating about it is King Green, when he was on bottom and Terrence McKinney was on top, McKinney had 2 legs in, 2 boots, 2 hooks, whatever you want to call them. And King Green was sprawled out on bottom and just taking hit after hit to his ears, his eyes, everything. He was a bloody mess. Ref never wanted to jump in and stop it there. I hate to be critical because it's a very tough job and a very difficult balance to be a referee in the UFC. But a fight like that was starting to get exciting and was just a dominant showing by Terrence McKinney other than the last 10 seconds, that was very disappointing to see an early stoppage. And now it's difficult to say what will happen to either of those fighters. King Green, he's just a brawler at this point in his career. He's just doing fight after fight. As far as what McKinney's going to do, it's tough to say. I think he should rally like Alex Pereira did against the referees. That was frustrating. Frustrating to say the least. After that was a extremely exciting fight. Brandon Royval against Lenoir Kavanagh. It was a battle. It was going back and forth, up and down. Phenomenal fight. These fighters deserve every single bonus they got. Brandon Royval ended up coming out on top with a round 3 submission, but that fight was worth every minute, every bit of hype, every dollar. It was an amazing fight that is likely overshadowed by some of the other names on this card. Paddy Pimblett, Conor McGregor, Max Holloway, or even Robert Whittaker's performance. That was a great fight. Both of those fighters should be compensated very well. Royval's kind of in a tough spot. He's likely 1 win away from a title shot, but most likely the title shot in the division is going to be Pantoja against Joshua Van. That's how it's going to be. That's how it should be because of how that fight ended. But Royval has a recent loss against Manel Kape, who's ranked higher than him, and Joshua Van. So if Joshua Van beats Pantoja and keeps the belt, because Brandon Royval has the loss to Manel Kape and to Joshua Van, he will not be first in line for the title shot. The only match I see for Royval where he's fighting up would be a rematch against Tatsuro Taira, because the last fight was very close and ended in a murky split decision. I believe that's the direction the UFC is going to go. Look for Brandon Royval against Tatsuro Taira. But yeah, Royval's he's fought himself into a difficult spot, which is not a horrible thing because he had to win to get there. Next up, it was about Corey Sandhagen against Mario Batista. Mario Batista ended up winning by unanimous decision, but you've got to give a lot of credit to Corey Sandhagen. in this fight, because in the first round, the very end of the first round, it looked like Sandhagen tore something in his leg. There was a flurry. Batista was rolling around on the ground, got a leg lock, and I'm no doctor. I couldn't even speculate what happened, but something was wrong with Sandhagen's knee. He was limping to his corner. There was a problem. And Sandhagen, he battled. He battled through the whole fight. He did win a round in that fight. And even in the third, he got dropped with a nasty hook from Mario Batista. But still, he got up and went through it. It was another fight that was just amazing. Did not disappoint at all. It's another fighter who's in a tough spot is Mario Batista, because Sugar Sean O'Malley and Petr Yan, that's most likely going to be the next title fight. So Batista, if you're a gambler, if I had to put money on it, I would bet that Batista's next fight would be against Merab, and then he would be next in line for a title shot. That's what I would think would happen. It seems like the only clear, as far as fighting up the rankings, it seems like the only clear path for him, given that the title fight is seemingly set in stone. On the other side, for Corey Sandhagen, a very exciting matchup for him would be against Iman Zahibi. Both fighters are coming off very tough losses against top competition. And to see both of those fighters coming off a loss and trying to rebound, that would be a phenomenal matchup. And both of them would be fighting for a chance to stay in line for a title shot, to keep that high ranking and stay just one fight away from a title shot. There would be a great narrative for that fight. Corey Sandhagen should fight Iman Zahibi, and Mario Batista should get matched up against Merab Dvalishvili. The co-main event, Paddy the Baddy and Benoit Saint-Denis. The narrative going into this fight, at least for me, there's always a ton of narrative with Paddy. He's one of those fighters that it's a love-hate for everyone. For everyone, not for the fans. The fans love him, and they should. But other fighters, man, between just jealousy of attention and Paddy's trash talk, he is hated. But if you're fighting against Paddy the Baddy, you're getting paid. That's the fact of it. Paddy draws a crowd. But back to the narrative in this one. Paddy Pimblett, when he was working his way up the rankings, he beat Tony Ferguson on the downhill slide. He beat Michael Chandler on the downhill slide. Those were his two most notable wins. 2 wins against the biggest names. And then he fought Justin Gaethje for the interim championship and got... I can't even think of a word off the top of my head right now to explain the damage he took. And that he overcame, really. He didn't get finished. Scousers really don't get knocked out. He proved that for sure in the Justin Gaethje fight. But the narrative going in was that Paddy Pimblett had never fought someone who is in their prime. He was still kind of unproven, because all of his wins, where there was a controversial decision win, even the win against King Green, that was a big name that he defeated. King Green he's aging, and he didn't look well in the Terrence McKinney fight either. And Paddy's one chance against a proven fighter and Justin Gaethje, who was not on the downhill slide, he did not look great. Got beat up. Now, all of that being said, going up against Benoit Saint-Denis, Benoit Saint-Denis was the favorite because people realized, okay, Paddy is good. He's a fan favorite. However, he's still kind of unproven. Benoit Saint-Denis is more proven. Well, Paddy proved everyone wrong. With a submission in the first round, Benoit Saint-Denis came out aggressive, went right for a takedown, and Paddy just jumped on a choke and ended it with a showing of flexibility and strength. It was a great submission from Paddy Pimblett, and he just continues to be electric in the UFC in the lightweight division. He officially proved himself. Hands down, he is a top guy. He's legit. He is not just some crazy English man who gains a ton of weight in between fights and talks a ton of shit. He is a proven fighter as well. He's such a big draw right now that he could fight anyone above him in the rankings, really. But the real decider will be what Justin Gaethje does. Because if Justin Gaethje, if he defends his belt, it will likely be against Arman Tsarukyan. That would mean that Paddy this would likely mean that Paddy would fight Ilia Topuria, which is a grudge match that we have been waiting for a whole year now. Those two hate each other. That would be a phenomenal match. However, if Gaethje retires, you could see Paddy Pimblett, because of his now proven talent, undeniable proven talent, because of that and the following he brings. If Gaethje retires, Paddy could fight Arman Tsarukyan for the lightweight championship. That could very well be a possibility. Keep your eye out for Paddy. It's very exciting, especially if you're a Paddy fan. But all that excitement's gonna end right now. The main event was the most anticlimactic thing possibly in UFC history. It was awful. It was terrible. If everyone has every right to be frustrated. For 5 years, the UFC fans have been waiting for Conor McGregor to return to the octagon. And you thought it was going to happen with Michael Chandler. It didn't ever materialize. McGregor had to pull out because of a toe injury. Now, finally, against Max Holloway, has the most significant strikes landed in UFC history. An amazing matchup. A rematch. Both of these fighters haven't fought each other since they were in their early 20s. They're totally different people now. And it ended, technically, Max Holloway won by TKO in round 1. But what happened was Conor McGregor ran out and he went for just a flying kick and when he landed, he missed the kick. When he landed on his foot wrong, and it looks like as of right now, there's no clear answer what the injury is. They're suspecting a torn ACL. Yeah, he jumped and tore his ACL. The 37-year-old who, his last fight in the octagon, he broke his leg. In the first few seconds, he jumped, landed wrong, and tore his ACL. It was a stupid start. Anticlimactic is the only thing you can call it. Everyone hopes that is not McGregor's last moment in the UFC. He's done so much for the corporation and is consistently a huge draw. It would be terrible if that was his last moment in the UFC. But at the same time, at 37 years old, with the injuries he's had for his health, it might be better if he just walks away. Dominic Cruz, he said something very interesting. He believed that the reason Conor McGregor came back to the UFC was because he lost himself in the fame, the money, the publicity. He completely lost himself. And the only way that Conor knows how to find focus and manifest is through fighting. Through his whole life, fighting has been his thing that kept him grounded. And at 37, Dominic Cruz believes that Conor McGregor tried to come back to fighting to find himself again, find his footing again, and just put all the noise outside of his head. What Dominic Cruz said, however, is win or lose, no matter what happens, after the fight, Conor is still going to have to face everything that he's avoiding. And it was very interesting. It was a statement that really makes you empathize with these fighters, especially in the wake of what Dustin Poirier is going through, struggling in retirement and trying to be the best person he can be. He really is. But when fighters lose fighting, have to retire, have to step away for whatever reason, they lose the one thing that kept them out of trouble and made their worst enemy not themselves but their opponent. And it's something that really that Patty brings attention to mental health, and it's a new narrative that is developing in the UFC right now, the narrative of fighters' mental health, life after fighting, etc. And it's one that has a lot of research still needed. So that's that, really. As far as the future, Conor McGregor has one fight left on his UFC contract, but it's too early to say what will happen. On Max Holloway's side of things, I mean, Max Holloway dodged a kick. Good for him. And he showed great sportsmanship. He could tell that something was wrong with Conor during the fight, and he wasn't going to wail on Conor in his comeback fight after a freak injury. But Max Holloway, it's very discouraging. Max Holloway is a phenomenal fighter, an undeniable UFC legend, but he could not make it any more clear in the past couple years that the only thing he is interested in is money. Between the BMF title fights, the Dustin Poirier retirement fight, the Conor McGregor fight, all he wants is money. He has no concern with winning the title, with fighting. He is a prize fighter now. And what you think of that is your opinion, but he's making that clear. And what made it even more clear is that he said before the fight even happened, he said, if I beat Conor McGregor, I want the trilogy fight right away. Max Holloway really is set up for a McGregor trilogy fight. If McGregor gets healthy and decides that he wants to try and come back to the octagon to end his UFC contract, the two options are a trilogy against Max Holloway, which I think some people would like to see, even though it was extremely disappointing. Months of anticipation for a horrible ending. Even though it was disappointing, I think people do want to see that fight. It would either be Conor McGregor against Max Holloway or against Michael Chandler. So Holloway is kind of set up for a McGregor trilogy fight. Too early to decide what would happen there, but even after McGregor got injured. Max Holloway was very polite on the microphone as always, but he said, we gotta run it back, and made some comment about making some money. And good for you, you want to make money fighting. But it's different. It's a different approach. Instead of fighting for the title, for legacy, for the love of the sport, just prize fighting. It's different. It's new. It's new for sure. With that main event, I will end it on this. Excuse me. With that anticlimactic and disappointing main event, because of that, it is going to be looked on as a failing card. However, when you look at all the fights prior, there were amazing fights. There's uprising talent. It was a great card. Just the main event sucked. That was it. UFC 329 was the main card. The main event was a failure. Not the main card. The main event was a failure. Let me clarify that. The main event was a failure. But the main card, the undercards, were amazing. There's a lot of fighters to start to follow now, and a lot of narratives being built after this card. So it was not a failure. It was just very, very disappointing, especially for any Conor McGregor fans out there. But with that being said, that was the UFC 329 Return of the Mac recap. Once again, if you like what you heard, go ahead and follow and hit the bell so you get notifications when my podcasts come out every Wednesday at 10 a.m. If you're listening on YouTube, like and subscribe, and go ahead and hit that bell too. If you don't like listening to the full, long episodes of the podcast, it's okay, I've got you covered. I make shorts of these podcasts, pulling out the best snippets, no longer than 3 minutes. You can find those on Instagram at DerekSmithStock13 or on TikTok at SmithStock5. And of course, like and subscribe to Dylan Smith Outdoors at Dylan Smith Outdoors 8459 on YouTube. Thanks for listening.